We have 6 years before 2030 and having to achieve the objectives of the National Development Plan. Now, 3 key objectives have to do with ending poverty, and the expression is ending poverty, dealing with unemployment and inequality. Now, 30 million of our people are poor. That is 55% of the population. How are we going to get them out of poverty in 6 years? We've already lost that battle. But there is a way in which we can address that matter. If we follow the radical economic transformation project announced by President Zuma, it will start by addressing the land question, bring back the mining charter of Mngxitama, which gave Black people 30% ownership in a year's time. And if you look at representation in boards, it provided for women, Black people, and that sector would have been transformed and in this way contribute towards ending poverty. Right now, there's no plan. There's no determination. I don't think there's even wish. If we look at the posture of this department, when we have to address poverty in 6 years, where half the population is poor, where is the plan?
They definitely don't have a plan. They definitely don't have a plan. I agree with Andile Mngxitama here that these people don't even have a determination, a zeal to end poverty. If the goal is to end poverty, that's impossible, because it's not even possible for this government, the government of ANC, to reduce unemployment or to reduce poverty. So if you want to deal with poverty, you have to deal with the major problem. The major problem is unemployment. That is why I always say, if you want to deal with the problems that you have in your life, you have to first deal with the root of the problem. So right now, we have many problems here in South Africa, like poverty, unemployment, and all these other problems like crime and many others. But the root of the problem is unemployment. There's no way you can end poverty as long as unemployment is high. You cannot end crime. Sometimes it's just putting a lot of pressure on police or unnecessary pressure on police when unemployment is up there. Because obvious, if you push me to the wall, obvious, I will concede. If you push me on the wall, then I might react in a negative way. So right now, as we speak, people are under pressure. Why? Because of poverty. So to deal with poverty, you need to have a strategic plan, a serious campaign, a serious project to deal specifically with unemployment. And most of these problems will resolve themselves automatically.
Where is the plan? This ministry is supposed to be the super planning ministry where everybody is whipped into action to contribute towards the National Development Plan. We don't see that determination. Then with inequality, you know, only 10% of the population has income of 80% of the national wealth. And Black people are excluded from that. It is white people. Of course, we come from apartheid, from colonialism. They kicked us out of our lands, made us poor, made us workers. We can only live by working for them. We have to address that matter. I can't see it being addressed in the next 6 years. It's impossible. Unemployment. As we speak, 32% of our people are unemployed, and the youth is, that figure goes to up to 46%.
And ANC had a plan to deal with poverty, because back then in 1994, there was poverty. From 1994 to 2000 until now, poverty was still there. And since from then, they had no plan to deal with poverty. Why? Because you have to understand that coming up with this strategy to deal with poverty, it has to be very strategic and intentional. Why? Because each and every year, the population is rising. So if you fail to deal with poverty when you had 40 million population, how are you expecting to deal with poverty when the population right now is around 60 million? So how do you expect to deal with poverty when the population is 60 million, when you failed when it was around 40 million? It's just a bit impossible. That is why I'm like, yeah, I agree. They don't have a plan at all. There's no zeal. There's no determination. I don't want to be mean, but most of these ministers, they are clueless. They don't even know what they are doing. They are just there to occupy these positions for 3 years or 5 years, then it's done. Another minister has to come in as well, and they'll promise jobs without any strategy. So when it comes to reducing unemployment, you have to be very strategic, because each and every year we have people who are turning 18. Each and every year we have graduates who are coming from universities and they expect to be employed. So that is why when you deal with unemployment, you have to be very intentional and strategic.
There is no plan to address unemployment. In fact, the state itself is kicking people out of jobs. Now, you need a proper state to discipline capital, just like in China. In fact, I suggest, House Chairperson, that we must go to China and go to learn how a government acts to discipline capital. There's Jack Ma, the Oppenheimer of China, who thought he was bigger than the state, and the state dealt with him, disappeared him. Now here our state is controlled by white capital. That is why our president was given R1 billion to buy a conference of a political party so that he becomes a president on behalf of white capital. And that is why we're never going to address the issues that affect our nation, because we don't have a government that represents our people. We have a government that represents white capital, captured by white capital. Political parties in this particular parliament are being funded by white capital, are funded by Stellenbosch. They represent the interests of Stellenbosch in this house. And the president, of course, got the R1 billion. There's the R1 billion. No, this is the truth. The public protector brought a report that showed that this year 17, why don't you show us who gave the president that money, and why would he give them that money to buy a conference of the ANC? So we have a problem. We are not going to meet we're not going to meet the National Development Plan goals. The unemployment is going to remain high because white capital needs super exploitation of our people to make profits. And this government, by its action, is defending the interests of white capital.
These people, they just keep on howling. They just keep on screaming without listening. And if I was a member of ANC sitting down there, I was going to allow this man to roast me. I was going to allow this man to criticize me without saying anything. I was going to be quiet. Why? Because as a government, if you were doing things well, you were supposed to have won the elections effortlessly. But right now, you only got 40%. So this is a sign that there's something that you are not doing well. In other words, in that situation, you have to say, you know what? Let me listen to this man. Instead of like screaming, let me just listen to him, because even my voters have humbled me. So the only thing that I have to do right now, let me just allow this man to roast me. Let me be quiet. Let me just take notes. So screaming and howling, this is a sign that these people are clueless. I don't want to be mean, but most of these people are clueless. They don't even understand what this man is saying. Sometimes even if I feel like this man has gone too far, even if I feel like maybe some of the things are not true, but based on the results, based on what is happening in our societies, I just have to be quiet and listen to this man and allow this man to roast me. But this is a clear indication that most of these people are like, we have to please our president now. In other words, they have to see that we are screaming and howling. And oh my goodness.
We are not going to end poverty. In 2030, our people are going to be as poor as they are. Minister, the light at the end of the tunnel is not something to be celebrated. It's an oncoming train. 2029, our people must judge this government on the basis of the promise it made, unprovoked, that it will end poverty, it will end unemployment and inequality. Thank you.